Today on NewsWatch, meet America's new Attorney General. Jeff Sessions narrowly approved as Democrats block President Trump's nominees like never before. Plus, holding Iran accountable. How hard will the Trump administration push back as the Iranian regime thumbs its nose at the world? And Faithful Fridays. See how Dr. Oz is connecting spiritual health and medical health on his TV show. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. After weeks of bitter partisanship, the Senate has voted on President Trump's nominee to head the Justice Department. The Senate confirmed Senator Jeff Sessions as the nation's Attorney General. This victory for the new administration comes as Democrats vow to keep fighting the president on virtually every front. George Thomas has the details.
The ayes are 52, the nays are 47.
The vote for Sessions was almost completely along party lines, with Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia being the only Democrat to side with Republicans to confirm the nation's top law enforcement officer.
I appreciate the full debate that we've had. I want to thank those who, after it all, found sufficient confidence in me to cast their vote to confirm me as the next Attorney General of the United States of America.
20 days after taking the oath of office, President Trump only has 6 of his 15 cabinet nominees in place. By this time, President Obama had 12 confirmed. President George W. Bush had all of his voted in. The president took to Twitter to air some of his frustration, writing, "It is a disgrace that my full cabinet is still not in place. The longest such delay in the history of our country. Obstruction by Democrats." Votes are set later this week for Steve Mnuchin as Treasury Secretary and Tom Price as Secretary of Health and Human Services. Price will play a key role in repealing and replacing Obamacare. Democrats and their allies are promising they won't let the law go down without a fight. As Democrats search for a strategy to deal with the Trump administration and a Republican-controlled Congress,
3 weeks in the White House has revealed that President Trump is exactly who we thought he is: incompetent, and in some cases, and in terms of our national security, dangerous.
They are meeting for their annual retreat in Baltimore this week, and the party's top leadership is making clear it will fight the president at every turn. "We're not irrelevant at all," said Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House. "We don't have to have our head bowed. We don't have to retreat in any way." So it appears that for the foreseeable future, President Trump is going to be facing more bitter opposition from Democrats. George Thomas, CBN News.
A new battle over judges is brewing after President Trump criticized American courts again. It comes as the Ninth Circuit Appeals Court considers his travel ban on 7 countries with a history of terrorism.
I don't ever want to call a court biased, so I won't call it biased. And we haven't had a decision yet. But courts seem to be so political.
The president recently criticized the lower court judge who put his travel ban on hold. Now a Democratic senator says Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Neil Gorsuch, told him the president's criticism of judges is, quote, demoralizing and disheartening. Meanwhile, a new poll from Politico shows the public approves of Trump's halt on immigration. 55% approve of the order, while only 38% disapprove. It's time for some weather whiplash. Warm weather in parts of the country is giving way to a huge snowstorm that started pounding the Northeast.
Put the top down and then get ready for the snow.
It's crazy. I've been sick for 3 weeks because of this weather thing. Cold, hot, cold, hot. We just need consistency.
The major storm system is expected to bring the Northeast its heaviest snowfall of the season. New York could see up to 10 inches of snow, residents being told to stay safe and stay home. Other areas like Philadelphia could get up to 6 inches of snow, while Boston could end up with 12 inches. Public schools across the 3 cities have already been closed for the day. Just days after Donald Trump's inauguration, Iran launched a ballistic missile test violating a UN resolution. As Chris Mitchell explains, a quick White House response showed Iran and the world it's not business as usual in Washington.
A ballistic missile launch in late January may have been Iran's way of testing the reaction time of the new Trump administration. It didn't take long to find out.
President Trump has severely criticized the various agreements reached between Iran and the Obama administration, as well as the United Nations, as being weak and ineffective. Instead of being thankful to the United States in these agreements, Iran is now feeling emboldened. As of today, we are officially putting Iran on notice.
Putting Iran on notice, I think, is making good use of the bully pulpit and not letting Iran get off the hook.
After the ballistic missile test, Fox News reported Iran launched a short-range missile. But just days ago, Iran removed another ballistic missile from its launch pad.
It remains to be seen if that was a direct response to the Trump administration saying that Iran is on notice, or if there was a technical issue or a technical failure that made them remove the missile. But I think Iran should be cautious.
Many Middle East analysts believe appeasement isn't the way to deal with Iran.
Strength works, and I think the Iranian regime would be the first ones to tell you that. Let's remember that when Ronald Reagan became president, the Iranians released all the American hostages for fear that under Ronald Reagan, the United States would take military action.
This new attitude represents a major departure from how President Obama dealt with the mullahs in Tehran. It also puts Israel and the U.S. on the same page.
For the first time in the past 8 years, Israel and its greatest ally and friend, the United States, see the Middle East in very similar ways. The number one threat to regional Middle Eastern stability and security is the Islamic Republic of Iran and their nuclear-backed surge for regional dominance.
The Iranian threat may seem remote to people in Europe and the United States, but it's a different story here. An Iranian official boasted that one of their ballistic missiles could reach Israel in 7 minutes. Dan Diker edited this journal 10 years ago, warning of the Iranian threat.
It is like an octopus spreading its tentacles and destabilizing almost every country in the Middle East except Israel.
And the end goal is to eventually threaten the United States.
It targets U.S. allies in the region, it targets U.S. partners in the region, and it seeks to unravel U.S. national security goals in the region. It wants to change the balance of power that the U.S. has helped array against Tehran in the Persian Gulf.
The major question facing the Trump administration is how to address the nuclear deal with Iran. On the campaign trail, Trump said he would repeal or renegotiate the agreement, but it remains to be seen what direction he will take as president. It's an item sure to be on the agenda when Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu meet next week in Washington. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
A Venezuelan whistleblower says the government is selling passports and visas to suspicious Middle Eastern citizens. The Venezuelan embassy official is named Misael Lopez Soto. In a recent interview with CNN Espanol, he said government officials requested he participate in a scheme to sell authentic documents to Mideast nationals. He added that in some cases, the scheme was tied to terrorist groups like Hezbollah. That group has had ongoing ties with the socialist regime in Caracas. Venezuelan officials are denying the claims. The Pennsylvania State Senate has approved a bill to ban abortions at 20 weeks. The legislation would also restrict how most second trimester abortions are done. The Pennsylvania House will now vote on the measure. A similar version passed there last year. Democratic Governor Tom Wolf has called the measure radical and unconstitutional and is vowing to veto the bill. Texas lawmakers are debating a new bathroom safety bill. It would require people to use restrooms that correspond to their biological sex. Critics say the bill discriminates against transgender people, but Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says it's about keeping people safe.
We're talking with lots of people because they realize that our bill does not discriminate against anyone, and they realize that the bill is about public safety and about the privacy of teenagers who don't want to shower together in the 10th grade.
Patrick believes the bill will pass despite fierce opposition. Liberal students at Santa Clara University have blocked other students from starting a conservative chapter at their school. The group Turning Point USA promotes limited government, free markets, and fiscal responsibility. The chapter is spread over 1,000 campuses nationwide. The request was rejected at Santa Clara University by the Student Senate after unfounded claims that the group is linked to white supremacists. One student says critics are falsely framing conservatives, saying, quote, "A lot of critics are lying about being afraid, or they are genuinely in fear because of this false sense of danger promulgated by the media that anyone who is vaguely conservative is a Nazi or a white supremacist. Coming up, millennial migration, why some from the next generation are moving to China for more reasons than one. Unemployed American millennials are finding jobs overseas, and some of them are heading to China. As Meng Fei Li reports, Christian millennials are reaching China, and they're adapting well to the culture.
From the break of the dawn until late night, with the excitement and noises, Beijing, the capital of China, never sleeps. At each street corner, the sound of modernity and business is getting louder. In the midst of all the noise, people find a quiet place, a unique photo gallery with touching stories. Christian photographer Peng Rong says people in these pictures are special.
These were soldiers for Jesus Christ. They spent their whole lives spreading the truth in China. They live for the Lord and are willing to die for the gospel.
These Christians are from various Chinese cities. Lujiang is one of them. It is one of the smallest cities in eastern China, with a population of 30,000 people. Few people have a reason to come here. Peng Rong wanted to come here to take photos of dedicated Christian evangelists.
Some of them never had the opportunity to preach in church. They had Bibles with them everywhere they went. When I met them, they told me they had the most useful tool, the Bible. They don't need any building. God always provided places to share the good news.
Peng's entire gallery is full of images from a recent trip. As a Christian, Peng was inspired by the stories he heard. He said the highlight of the journey was the hope these Chinese missionaries shared about the future.
A few of them are close to 100 years old. They constantly pray for this nation, trusting that China will soon become the largest Christian nation. Prayers can move mountains.
As I viewed each image, I was so moved by the stories I read. I compared my faith with these older Christian believers. I know I still have a long way to go in my faith journey. I hope someday I could meet some of them in person.
Stories like these have motivated some American millennials to move to China to learn the language and its culture. Many feel the Lord is preparing them to serve the people of China. Kenneth King was born and raised in Norfolk, Virginia. At the age of 23, instead of seeking employment in the United States, he decided to make a change.
Which is really interesting to me because it's so foreign. It's very different from any Western language, German, English, Spanish, French, whatever. Also because China's got a very rich history to it, and its culture is also very different from American culture as well. So those are all really attractive to me because they're so different.
Kenneth is a Christian, called by God to move to China. His parents were excited about his move. They knew God could use their son in a big way. Besides going to school in China, he also fell in love with the local culture. He makes trips around China, talking to the locals. He believes more American millennials will be motivated to travel overseas for bigger opportunities.
More millennials wanting to get a bigger head start in the beginning, plus having the option to travel and work abroad. I mean, most people will take a job that lets them travel a little bit, particularly when they're young, when they're my age, and getting to live outside the United States. That's causing a lot of millennials to come to China or other countries.
Chinese Christians have helped Ken find part-time work and improve his Chinese language skills. His favorite weekend activity is to write Chinese characters. He says in the long run, he will love to speak better Chinese and join a local Chinese church. Ken hopes government leaders open their eyes to Jesus Christ this year. And he's encouraging more young American Christians to follow his lead to change Chinese lives and their own. Meng Fei Li, CBN News.
Up next, we take you behind the scenes of a new segment on the Dr. Oz Show. Meet Dr. Oz and his new team of power preachers right after this. Welcome back. Medical research shows that faith can have a strong effect on your health. One of America's favorite doctors is looking deeper at this connection, and he's turning to Christian leaders to help him. Dr. Oz tells our Ephraim Graham why his talk show will focus on faith every Friday for an entire month.
Can't get their heads around that. How do they cope? What do you say to skeptics around this issue?
Millions turn to Dr. Oz each day. The heart surgeon is known for making complicated health issues easier to understand.
I have medical records that show that she shouldn't have survived. Her doctor
on his daytime talk show and in his endless string of best-selling books. This month, Dr. Oz changes hats to ask the questions, big questions, about faith.
For many of us, these are the most urgent questions we face in our time here on Earth. All this month, we'll be searching for answers on Faithful Fridays.
In that weekly search,
from a spiritual point of view, what's going on, Devon?
He teams up with preacher and Hollywood film executive Devon Franklin. The two spent a lot of time talking about faith after one of Devon's very first appearances on the show.
My mother-in-law is a minister, and I was thinking about how powerful this was, and I thought, we've got to find a way of growing this even bigger. And so I reached out to Devon, and we spent the last couple weeks having the best time planning out his brainchild.
This is uncommon. And I can't say that enough, for him to be so generous to allow this conversation to happen, for me to be here, for me to help participate. And it came organically. I mean, this is all, there was no plan. It just evolved. You can't plan it. You can't plan it. I mean, really, unexplained.
As he gazes upward.
Exactly.
Why do we even need saints and miracles? How does that play a role?
Because life is hard. You know, we live our life and it's difficult. And sometimes we don't believe that there is a greater purpose for our life.
In this month, they will also push the audience to spend time each day thinking about the good in their lives. It's called the Blessed 30 Challenge.
What happens at the end of the Blessed 30? What do you want to see happen?
What I want to see happen is that people go through this 30 days, they search for the blessings, they live in the blessings, they reorient their life to live in the blessings that are already there. And at the end of the 30, I want them to walk out with more peace, more confidence, more hope, because I have no doubt in my mind, when you recognize how blessed you really are, your complaints go down, your positivity goes up, your faith rises, and your belief in what God can do in your life accelerates.
Dr. Oz, you have millions and millions of viewers. Why give faith a platform on a show that really educates people about their medical health?
Well, why not? I mean, after all, if you read the Bible, right, one of the most important things
is the temple, right?
But he heals people. Yeah. How can you really live life to the fullest if you're not taking care of what you've been blessed with? Well, the most valuable thing you're probably given in many ways is just the body and the soul that's inside of it. I'm actually a guest in people's home. And when I come into your home, I got to bring something worth hearing and people worth listening to with me.
That's why Dr. Oz and Devon have also invited what they call their team of power preachers to the month-long series. Pastor Samuel Rodriguez, Bible teacher Priscilla Shire, and Hillsong New York pastor Carl Lentz.
Miracles seem to happen to some people and not others?
Well, see, I actually don't believe that. I believe that we all are miracle recipients.
The team will explore the power of prayer and miracles.
You've done studies and you're a surgeon. You have seen, I know one of the shows are going to focus on this, unexplained medical recoveries. When you see that as a surgeon, what does that do to your heart, to your faith, that, you, doctor, they come to you for healing and something happens that you have no explanation?
It reinforces my faith. When we go through medical school, we're educated by the books, but we're educated by our teachers as well. And my best teachers were always humble people. Brilliant, but they had humility. And they would remind us that we don't control all the levers. And I've seen too many times in my own life, people in front of me who should not have made it and who pulled through. I had one of Devon's films on early on. Jeff Gardner came on.
Yeah, Miracles from Heaven.
And, again, you look at the story, it's true. It's not, it's not fictional. Right. It actually literally happened.
It happened.
There's no way we can explain that, which is sort of beautiful. Because one of the reasons that I went into health and medicine is I knew I could never learn it all. I'll give you a little secret. I think most doctors are like me. We go in there because there's a mystery, there's a beauty, there's an elegance, there's a bigness to life. We can understand the mechanics and we're very proud of what we get. But we never want to be arrogant enough to know or believe we can call all the shots.
Dr. Oz jokingly calls surgery controlled arrogance, and the operative word is control. Ephraim Graham, CBN News, New York.
Even in the face of not.
Dr. Oz reportedly came from a mixed Muslim family, but he's also been influenced by other ideas. And Ephraim tells us Dr. Oz appears to be very moved by the Christian faith of Devon Franklin and other ministers, and that's why he turned to them for these shows. Thanks for staying with us. CBN's award-winning television program, Turning Point International, is celebrating 20 years of broadcasting. The program can be seen in 13 countries, in Africa, 11 Caribbean nations, the UK, and Canada. The show covers critical global issues and shares true-life stories with their audience, from celebrities to ordinary people. In honor of their 20th anniversary, the show recorded special episodes with interviews with some of their most memorable guests. And you can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by going to cbn.com/international. That's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here, and you can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.